City Council puts the brakes on new spending. A major fire shuts down traffic through the town of Ignace. And strong criticism of Canada's cyber surveillance policies.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. Thunder Bay City Council was asked to take on an additional $18 million in long-term debt last night.
Administration feels the city's finances are in great shape, and now would be a good time to debenture some big-ticket items. At the same time, numerous groups came before council last night to pitch their projects and ask for funding. Dennis Ward has the rundown.
It's really about...
City staff are recommending council take on $8.2 million in additional debt to fund the second phase of the Gulf Links corridor. The debenture is part of a new debt management strategy being proposed. It also includes allowing TBT to borrow $10 million for capital upgrades. But CEO Dan Topatai says not to worry. The balance sheets are healthy. It's just a good time to borrow.
We have funded our own capital programs that range anywhere, on average, from $30 million a year. It has been as high as almost $40 million a year in some years through our own operations.
But some on council are worried about the greater policy. Mark Bentz believed approving it was essentially saying it's okay to take on a lot more debt.
We've got a whole slew of projects here, and we really need to think as a council. We have to have a strategy as to what's possible on this list and what is a dream. Because up till now we're saying we'll consider everything, but what we're not considering is the final price tag.
Council will revisit the policy in March. How to fund the second phase of Gulf Links will be debated during budget deliberations. In other business, the Fort William First Nation was looking to team up with the city on a historical tourist attraction. Walter Bannon wants to recreate the Jesuit mission site, complete with museums and educational centers. Council asked for a report on the $40,000 request to help pay for a business plan. A group called the Military Tribute Committee also laid out their vision for a permanent monument in the city to honor those killed serving the country. The committee are looking to the city for a location.
Marina Park has ample parking, and people are there year-round. Waverley Park already has the history associated with military tributes, including the addition of the recent headstone recognizing the 3 brave men from our city who lost their lives in Afghanistan. Friendship Gardens pays tribute to our city's cultural makeup. A new wall at Hillcrest Park may be possible, or even Kaministiquia Park.
The idea is in the early stages, but council was very supportive of the project. Dennis Ward, TBT News.
The city is calling on the Chamber of Commerce to set the record straight and revise a recent report it released. Earlier this month, the Chamber held a news conference about its analysis of municipal finances. The report warned the public about tax increases of nearly 8% over the next 4 years if council continued down the same path. But the city and the mayor are taking issue with that. City officials met with chamber representatives last Friday. Mayor Keith Hobbs says he respects the chamber's important role, but says they also have a responsibility to get their facts straight. And Hobbs says he's pleased with the proposed 2% tax increase this year.
The chamber report said for 7% and 8% increases. Again, I want to reiterate, you're not going to see those kinds of increases. Haven't seen them in the last 3 years. And, our budgets have been responsible. This one is responsible, and we're still attacking that infrastructure deficit.
Chamber President Charlotte Robinson says the purpose of the report was to point out that the city lags in efficiencies compared to other cities. Robinson adds they will be reviewing their report now that they've received some new information from the city.
In the wake of that deadly fire at a seniors' home in Quebec, Thunder Bay fire crews responded to a small blaze at a seniors' apartment complex here in the city this morning. The fire broke out in the mechanical room at the Sumikote residence on County Boulevard. Fortunately, there were no injuries, and because of the bitter cold this morning, officials decided to move the senior residence to another part of the building rather than evacuate outside. A fire investigator is looking into the cause. The apartment complex is home to nearly 100 residents.
Meanwhile, the town of Ignace was the scene of a major fire early this morning. The blaze broke out at around 3 o'clock in the morning at Grandma's Supermarket and Hardware along Highway 17. The store is owned by Ignace Mayor Lee Kennard. He calls the scene devastating says the business was completely destroyed. It was the only hardware store in the community and one of only 2 grocery stores. Fire crews evacuated a motel beside the structure along with the nearby home, and the OPP closed the highway for several hours to allow firefighters to battle the blaze. There is no word yet on a possible cause.
Thunder Bay police were called to the Shoppers Drug Mart on Red River Road following an armed robbery this morning. Police say a lone female entered the store, pulled a knife, and demanded narcotics. The woman then tried to gain entry into the safe but was unsuccessful. After she fled, she was followed on foot heading towards Picton Avenue. Officers were alerted to her location by the person who followed her, and a woman was arrested at gunpoint without incident. Constable Julie Tilbury says although it was helpful someone in the store followed her when she fled, it's not something they encourage.
Individual in this case did use precaution and keep a fair distance from this individual, and was able to follow them and advise us as to their location, which turned out in us being able to arrest this individual. Again, we do not recommend it. We want people to keep their own personal safety at the forefront and make sure that they are safe and don't put themselves in harm's way.
Today's robbery comes 3 weeks after another armed robbery by a woman at that same Shoppers Drug Mart location. Tilbury says it's too early to say whether the 2 incidents are connected, as the investigation is ongoing.
Meanwhile, Thunder Bay Police also released information today about the local sex trade. Police from across Canada participated in a 2-day blitz that focused on young women being forced to participate in prostitution. A total of 20 women aged 22 to 48 years old were interviewed on the streets of our city. Police says at least 3 of these women were under some level of control. Constable Julie Tilbury says police are hoping that by offering support services to these women, they will consider their options.
It's something that we have always tried to keep track of because we know that these women are in a very dangerous situation most nights when they go out. We want to make sure that we can offer them assistance if they do get themselves into a situation, and we can help them out down the road. So it is something we have always taken care to keep information on, and we do our best to ensure their safety.
Thunder Bay Police are also appealing to any person who may be involved in a similar situation or may know someone involved to come forward to police.
Thunder Bay military veteran Roy Lamour was front and center in Ottawa today. A group of ex-soldiers held a news conference claiming the federal government is deliberately reducing services for veterans. They're trying to convince Ottawa not to shut down Veterans Affairs regional offices in 8 cities across the country, including Thunder Bay. Those closures are to come this Friday. The government is moving to more online and remote services. But Lamour, a Second World War veteran, says he and others feel betrayed by a government that promised to take care of them.
I'm here today to say to this government, this is not fair. These are real tears. These closures will put veterans at risk. I hope the government is listening. Why do we, as veterans, have to beg?
The closure of the Veterans Affairs offices was also the first topic of debate in the House of Commons today.
The Conservative government plans to close 8 veterans service centres this weekend. Some veterans will now have to drive 5 hours for a face-to-face meeting. Does the Prime Minister find that acceptable? Yes or no?
That is completely false. What is happening here is a significant increase in service. There are a small number of service centers that are being closed that frankly serviced very few people, had very few visits. That's being replaced with 600 service centers across the country. And Mr. Speaker, an increased number of cases of employees will actually go and they will go and meet veterans instead of the other way around.
Thunder Bay veterans advocates are planning to hold a memorial service at the local office on Red River Road Friday to highlight its last day of operation. Mayor Keith Hobbs and MP Bruce Heyer are expected to attend.
Thunder Bay's influenza outbreak appears to have subsided. According to the district health unit, the city has plateaued in terms of flu cases. That doesn't mean the chances of contracting the flu have disappeared, but the numbers are expected to go down. Over the past month, the health unit reported 106 lab-confirmed cases of the flu and 6 flu-related deaths. And 5 of those 6 fatalities were confirmed as H1N1. Manager of Infectious Disease, Diana Gowanlock, says there is still a risk of another spike with warmer weather approaching. She says it's important to maintain good hygiene and it's not too late to consider getting the flu shot.
Well, we are finding that our numbers of positive lab-confirmed flu cases are starting to decrease. We still are having numbers coming in on pretty much a daily basis, maybe one or two every couple days. But we're finding we're not getting them in big, large amounts like we were earlier in the season. So this indicates to us that possibly we, might have reached our little bit of a peak there, and we're coming down off of our previous flu surge.
Gavin Locke says this year the flu started off by hitting children and then adults and has stayed mostly within the 18 to 65 age group. Fortunately, the number of flu-related deaths has not risen in the past 2 weeks. And Gavin Locke adds of the 6 fatalities, 5 are confirmed as not having their flu shot, and the 6th is unconfirmed.
With nighttime temperatures dipping into the minus 30-degree range, a Kenora area family has been located after spending 3 chilly nights in the bush. The family, which included 2 children aged 6 and 10, had left Kenora back on January 18th for a week of trapping north of Monaco. But on the return trip home last Friday, one of their snow machines broke down while the second one became stuck. A search was launched Saturday after they failed to return as scheduled. They were finally located yesterday by a pilot who had been asked for assistance in the search by the family. Police say the family had survival gear and sufficient food to last for 3 days, and they're crediting those preparations as well as communicating their travel plans to others with helping to ensure that they return home safely.
The company behind the proposed Big Thunder Wind Park has jumped on board to sponsor the work of Lakehead University's mechanical engineering students. Horizon Wind announced the donation today. However, the actual amount is being kept confidential. The donation went towards building and testing a wind turbine for residential use. The turbine, created by the 5 LU students, incorporates a rotor shaft that will be able to adjust according to wind direction and speed. Horizon Wind spokesperson Kathleen McKenzie says they were pleased to find a project at Lakehead that will do its part in helping to save the planet.
People who are looking at today's modern wind farms and solar farms, and they're thinking, how can we make this bigger and better and cheaper and usable in a variety of different ways? So to me, this is the future.
As for the latest on the Big Thunder Wind Park, McKenzie says Horizon expects to receive final approval from the province sometime in the next few months.
Organizers of the Bearskin Airlines Hope Classic are getting ready for another big curling bonspiel next month. The Hope Classic has been a huge success over the past 17 years. The event raises awareness and money to support the Linda Buchan Center through the Northern Cancer Fund of Thunder Bay's Regional Health Sciences Foundation. It all began because of Buchan, who fought a brave fight against cancer before she passed away in 2002. Her husband Ron spoke about how his wife would feel about the event now.
She would be ecstatic to see where we've come, how far we've come. She never dreamed in her wildest dreams we'd be where we are today.
The funds that come in from the Hope Classic are really instrumental in providing the Health Sciences Centre with imaging equipment for our breast assessment centre. And we're able to have state-of-the-art equipment because of the sponsorship that we receive. And again, it allows women to have this service done close to home.
28 teams of women are participating in this year's event, and each curler is required to collect donations for the cause. To date, the Hope Classic has raised over $2.4 million. It runs from February 7th to the 9th at the Fort William Curling Club.
Well, we all like to complain about the cold, but every day Thunder Bay residents rely on many workers to brave the deep freeze. Postal workers, crossing guards, and construction workers are among those who have to deal with the cold. Phil Darlington has more on what it's like to work outside in these conditions.
Well, I had a little frostbite on my cheek this winter already, so I gotta keep my face covered.
We didn't break any records this week, but if you stepped outside, it certainly felt like we did. The temperatures hit a brutal minus 42 with the wind chill, and letter carriers are given a choice if they want to deliver because of the health and safety risk.
We were told just to take out the first class parcels, registers, checks, and and the priority post and things like that.
Aside from the danger of frostbite, there are other risks that many people are not aware of. But it's important to understand that even though extended exposure should be avoided, that's not always possible.
They don't realize that you're not just out like for, say, a walk for half an hour, like with the trash collectors and letter carriers and even the flyer people, it's more like 2-3 hours.
During weather like this, we are outdoor workers. The roads are a lot worse than they are during the summer, and a lot of people don't realize that, to please slow down during construction zones.
For outdoor workers, it is necessary to deploy a number of tactics for staying warm.
Well, I put on a lot of layers of clothes, and that helps a little bit too, that little hut I got there, right?
In weather like this, it's pretty good to actually sit in the truck about every 15 minutes to a half an hour, do about a 5-minute warm-up.
And you got to have good mitts, because your hands get cold, and we get those little hot pockets to put in our gloves and that.
Although the temperatures are expected to warm up slightly over the next few days, the possibility of more snow is another factor that will need to be contended with for the outdoor workers of Thunder Bay. Phil Darlington, TBT News.